Think about the ache on the left side of your jaw, pulsing in sync with your heartbeat. You will go to the dentist, you will make an appointment. In a few hours, under local anesthesia, everything will be resolved without you feeling a thing. But think about this. 10,000 years ago, someone woke up with that exact same pain. There was no appointment to make, no anesthesia, no needle. There was only that throbbing, and you had to endure it until the next morning. So what did they do? The answer to this question is not only about the history of medicine, it is about the brain, about pain, and about things modern medicine never told you. Because the solutions ancient people found for tooth pain have both stunned and bewildered scientists today. Some of those solutions actually worked, genuinely worked, and there is something I want to say at the very start of this video. By the time you reach the end, you will understand it in a completely different way. Tooth pain is humanity's oldest enemy. This is not an exaggeration, it is a scientific fact. In 2017, during excavations at Divče Babe Cave in Slovenia, a jawbone was discovered. Estimated to be around 6,500 years old, one of the teeth in that jawbone showed a clear cavity, a tooth that had been quite literally drilled through. But that was not even the most remarkable part. Scientists from the University of Bologna announced in a study published in 2015 that they had examined a jawbone dating back 13,000 years. It came from northern Italy, and the inside of one of its teeth had been deliberately hollowed out. Using a small stone tool, systematically, the decayed tissue had been partially removed. Someone living 13,000 years ago was attempting to fill a tooth without any form of anesthesia. Take a moment to let that sink in. A tiny stone in your hand, another stone inside your mouth, nothing to kill the pain, and you keep going anyway. Because the alternative was continuing to live with that pain, and you refused. So how did they bear it? This is exactly where the brain enters the picture. What I'm about to tell you is one of the most astonishing findings in modern pain research. Pain is not objective. A study published in 2011 by Dr. Ted Kapchuk of Harvard Medical School demonstrated this clearly. A placebo, meaning a medication with absolutely no active ingredient, was shown to reduce pain even after patients were told outright that the pill would have no effect. 30% of the participants experienced a genuine sense of improvement. The brain was capable of responding even without the belief that something was being done to relieve the pain. Ancient people did not know this in any scientific sense, but they were using it anyway. Shamanic rituals, prayers, incantations, ceremonies held around fires. These were not empty gestures, these were protocols that activated the placebo system at full intensity. And they worked, because the brain releases endorphins according to the state of belief a person holds. The very same endorphins. The molecule that is roughly 200 times more potent than morphine. But the placebo was not the only tool. And this is where the story truly becomes fascinating. Some ancient remedies form the very foundation of modern pharmacology. Clove. If you have any in your kitchen right now, you are in possession of something remarkable. It contains a compound called eugenol. Eugenol is a powerful natural anesthetic. Modern dentistry still uses it in root canal treatments. And who discovered it? The Egyptians. The Ebers Papyrus, dating to 1550 BC, explicitly records the use of clove for tooth pain, meaning that 3,500 years ago, an Egyptian was chewing clove to relieve a toothache and was doing something chemically correct without knowing it. Now, you might be thinking, were these not just accidents? Coincidences stumbled upon through trial and error? That question matters, and the answer matters even more. Ethnobotanist Moerman's comprehensive 1998 study examined more than 20,000 plant-based remedies, and it found the following. Completely separate cultures from across the world, with no contact or communication between them, including Native Americans, Central African tribes, and South Asian communities, had independently discovered the same plants for the same purposes. This was not coincidence. This was observation. These people carried within them the accumulated knowledge of millions of individuals who had interacted with millions of plants over thousands of years. A sample size far greater than anything modern clinical research could achieve. But the strangest of all comes from an unexpected place. In the Hindu Kush mountains of Pakistan, the Kailash people still live today. Their method of treating tooth pain made scientists laugh when they first heard of it. Then it made them think. Then it made them take it into a laboratory, raw garlic. A clove of raw garlic placed directly on the aching tooth and held there for a few minutes. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? A study published in the Journal of Antimicrobial Chemotherapy in 2012 revealed the following. A compound in garlic called allicin displays powerful antimicrobial activity against Streptococcus mutans, the primary bacterium responsible for tooth decay. It was also documented to be effective against certain antibiotic-resistant bacterial strains. The Kailash people's seemingly absurd tradition was intuitively exploiting a mechanism that modern antibiotic research is now actively investigating. And now we return to a question, the one I opened at the beginning of this video and left unanswered. Were ancient people more tolerant of pain than we are? You were wondering this, perhaps without even realizing it. The answer is both no and yes, simultaneously. Neuroendocrinologist Tor Wager's 2013 research showed that pain tolerance is dramatically shaped by cultural learning and context. How you frame pain, whether you perceive it as a threat, as temporary, or as meaningful, physically changes the neural response your brain produces to that pain. Ancient people experienced pain within a different narrative. Instead of thinking this pain will never end and it is unbearable, they carried the framework that this pain is a part of nature and we can deal with it. This is not merely psychology, this is physiology, specifically how the prefrontal cortex modulates pain signals. You reach for a clinical solution every time a tooth hurts, because that is what you were taught to expect. And that expectation genuinely intensifies the pain experience. This is not your fault. The brain produces responses according to the reference point it has been given. Now we arrive at the darkest part, medieval Europe, and tooth extraction. Written records of this exist. Reading them will turn your stomach. There was no anesthesia, you already know that, but there was also no reliable method. In the 13th century, the people pulling teeth were not surgeons. They were barbers, butchers, traveling figures known as dentes extractores, who set up performances in town squares and at fairs, moving from city to city like market traders. Their equipment consisted of a pair of pliers, a lever device called a pelican, and sometimes nothing more than strong fingers. The patient had to be held down by several people, because otherwise they would run. Failed extractions could end in a broken jaw. Infection was among the most common causes of death following a procedure. 14th century records mention patients who died after having a tooth pulled. But it must be said that medieval people were not foolish. To understand why these methods remain so primitive, you need to understand the medical thinking of the era. Galen's theory of the four humors, developed in the 2nd century, held that tooth pain was caused by an excess of phlegm. The solution, therefore, lay not in the tooth itself, but in restoring the body's overall balance. This incorrect theory blocked proper anatomical research for hundreds of years. A wrong framework prevents the right questions from being asked. That should feel familiar to you, because modern medicine may also have operated within flawed frameworks at times. Until the 1990s, standard medical texts stated that the dental nerve was different from other nerves in the body and that sterilization during a root canal procedure was achievable. A study published in 2019 suggested that complete sterilization of root canals using current techniques cannot be guaranteed, and that microbial residue may contribute to systemic inflammation. This remains contested. Research is ongoing. No definitive conclusion has been reached. But 500 years from now, what will someone think when they look back at this era? They will likely say that just as we look at the Middle Ages, these people too were wrong about some things. And this brings us back to that ancient question, the one I opened at the start of this video. What did ancient people do when their teeth hurt? They tried to survive. They observed. They accumulated experience. They made mistakes and corrected them. They tried clove. They tried garlic. They tried acupuncture. And some of those things survived thousands of years of filtering to reach us today. No one has ever fully calculated what modern medicine owes them, but eugenol is still in use. Salicylic acid, the origin of aspirin, was derived from willow bark tea. Morphine came from the opium poppy. Quinine came from the bark of the cinchona tree. The pharmacies of our ancestors have long vanished, but the formulas they found have endured. And now, one final thing. A study published in Nature in 2019 examined the dental plaque of Neanderthals. Individuals showing signs of pain were identified, and in the plaque of those specific individuals, traces of plants with analgesic properties were found. In healthy individuals from the same group, those plants were absent. A Neanderthal, when in pain, was consciously selecting and chewing something specific 40,000 years ago. No anesthesia, no dentist, no appointment, but there was observation, there was memory, and there was knowledge passed from one person to another, carried forward through spoken word. Today, when that throbbing begins on the left side of your jaw, you pick up your phone and make an appointment, and that is an extraordinary thing, it truly is. But on your way to that appointment, you are carrying 40,000 years of accumulated knowledge. A system built on everything gathered by the hands that discovered clove, the mouths that tested garlic, the hands that hollowed out a tooth with a stone. The question is not what ancient people would have done. The question is this: where do you stand within that accumulation? Will you be someone who consumes it, or someone who carries it forward to the next person? The answer is not in the tooth, it is in the mind.